Which Mavericks could potentially be award winners this upcoming season? Plus, Bobby Marks, ESPN front office insider, will join us at 12:30 today. All coming up next on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato. We, of course, are DLLS Mavs. Appreciate you joining us here on this fantastic Friday. Which free-agent point guards could make sense for the Dallas Mavericks as they await Kyrie Irving's return? Plus, we'll get into some salary cap, trade talk, all kinds of stuff today with ESPN front office insider Bobby Marks coming up at 12:30, and we'll dial up the Stein Line a little bit later on in our show. You make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports while you're here. You can download and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcast for free. Give it a 5-star rating and write a review for it while you're there. Search DLLS Mavs on this fantastic Friday. Tim Cato, as we get ready to head into Memorial Day weekend, how we feeling?
Feeling fantastic, as it should be on a Friday that is termed Fantastic Friday.
That's very true. Kids out of school. My daughter finished up her last day of school yesterday, so she is already in summer mode. She slept in this morning, so did mommy and daddy. So we got some good rest last night for the first time in, 7-8 months, it feels like. So we're ready for the summer vacation. Hopefully you all are having a really good, nice start to your summer as well. We've got a lot to get into in today's episode of the DLLS Mavs podcast, and let's just jump into it because the Mavericks, of course, sit just a month away from the NBA draft on June 25th. Presumptive number 1 overall pick Cooper Flagg continuing getting preparations for his potential big day with the Dallas Mavericks. But the Mavericks got some work to do this offseason, especially when it comes to addressing their point guard position. And a tweet from last night from the Dallas Morning News' own Brad Townsend got Mavs Nation a little bit in of a stir. Is my man Prophet going to put this up here for us, where at Town Brad tweeted out at 7:08 last night, quote, "Chris Paul is stellar all the way around. Mavs certainly could do worse this summer as they assess their point guard situation." And as you could see, or as you're listening here, it got Mavericks fans in a little bit of an uproar because they're like, well, maybe Chris Paul might fit the timeline because they need a point guard until Kyrie Irving comes back. So let's jump into it, Tim Cato. Number one, which kind of point guard do you think the Mavericks could find themselves getting to be able to help stem the tide until Kyrie comes back? And could it be a guy, Chris Paul, who obviously played with San Antonio last year?
Yeah, obviously we've been talking about this quite a bit. And it's the number one need for Dallas going into the summer. They need a creator. They need somebody who can fill in for Kyrie. And then, if you're so lucky, also somebody who can play alongside him once he's back. But let me tell you right now, the most important thing is the replacement. It's the player who can make up for some of Kyrie's absence. That's the only thing that matters. That's the thing that matters far, 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 far more than the idea of the dual fit. But that's also tricky because if you're making the pitch to a player and the player is like, look, I don't really see my fit next to Kyrie, then what's the incentive for that player to come here? On top of that, if Dallas is going to go free agent route, then all they can really offer is the free agent minimum. We'll talk about this more with Bobby. Actually, gonna have 2 Bobbies on the show.
That's right.
Yeah, our local Bobby, our
He'll
resident Bobby,
in the next
is
segment.
coming.
That's right.
Yeah. Give him a second. So, if to unlock, the MLE, to unlock more money to use in free agency, Dallas would have to be making a lot of moves anyway. And so, in that scenario, you're probably just gonna go get, you're probably gonna prioritize getting a guard that way. Now, if there's a guard on the free agent market that you could get with the MLE and you spent your entire summer, used all your, all the value that you have that you'd potentially trade or attempt to trade for a creator, for a Kyrie replacement, a Kyrie fill-in during his injury absence. It's possible you could use all that money to try to get enough under the salary cap that you have, like, the taxpayers mid-level. Again, we'll get into that a little bit more. But the likeliest outcome is that Dallas just uses the minimum on a player. Chris Paul. Would it be Chris Paul? Chris Paul just did this. Chris Paul just was a fill-in for a team that Dallas is definitely more advanced than where San Antonio is. But Chris Paul just did this. His family still lives in LA. I want to mention, reporting that Mark Stein did on our show. Reporting might be strong. Got to be specific. Got to make sure that I'm correctly phrasing what Mark Stein said. Mark Stein kind of gave a informed overview of Chris Paul and his decision-making process. And Chris Paul last season with San Antonio was something that was, it was certainly, it wasn't exactly, I remember even when he signed with San Antonio, when Chris Paul signed with San Antonio, there was some line out there about how Chris Paul, viewed this as a great opportunity to play with a future NBA, legend, somebody, one of the most, intriguing NBA players to come into the league in Wemby. But I remember him, like the line about it was, maybe there's he's not done competing for titles.
Sure.
How realistic that is, who knows? But I think it does say something about his mindset. And with his family living in LA and with Dallas not guaranteed, not just instantly title contenders, you can certainly look at the team and think they're title contenders, but they haven't proven they're title contenders. There's a difference between last season's team, who added Klay Thompson, who had just been to the finals and said, this is the piece that's going to push us over the edge, versus a team that was bad enough that they're in the lottery and allow them to get Cooper Flagg and have asterisks on the season upcoming. So it's a little bit of a different situation. It's also just like, are you sure Chris Paul is going to play for the minimum? Are you positive of that? He didn't last season. He made almost $11 million last season. So it would also be a step down in salary in the scenario for him to choose once again to go to a different Texas team in a situation that just may not be best for his personal life. Again, we don't know. I don't know. I'm not saying I know. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying that there's a few more steps between Dallas thinks Chris Paul would make a lot of sense as a fill-in, and Chris Paul says, oh yeah, I'll come play for the minimum. That's no problem. I'd love to. I'd be happy. I'm so honored that you guys have interest in me. There's a big step between those two things, just for starters.
And as it's accurately pointed out in terms of the chat, you would get that much older, that much more quickly with the addition of Chris Paul at the age of 40 years old, Kyrie Irving, 33, Anthony Davis at 32, Klay Thompson, who is 35, going to be 36 by the time we get to the end of next season. So the pressure to win a championship continues to go up because of the timeline that these individuals are on and the money that's going to be commanded, especially for Anthony Davis with his 3-year, $175 million contract extension that kicks in at the beginning of this upcoming season. It's anticipated, I would imagine, that Kyrie Irving will be getting a little bit of a raise this summer if he does, in fact, opt out of his player option, which is near $44 million. And then if you're adding Chris Paul, who did not play on the minimum last year, it would be hard-pressed to see him playing on the minimum going into this upcoming year. And if he wants to continue to compete for championships, this may be a situation where he looks at the pieces that are there, even with Kyrie Irving coming back from the torn ACL, that he feels like may give him the best chance, because right now it doesn't necessarily look like it would fit for him in terms of either the Los Angeles teams, in terms of the Clippers or the Los Angeles Lakers. I can't see him going back to Phoenix necessarily. Not even a situation in Denver feels like would be the right one for him. So maybe it's more of an opportunity than it feels like when it comes to Chris Paul. But at the same time, Tim, if Chris Paul became a Dallas Maverick, it would break the time-space continuum, because I don't think a lot of Mavericks fans would ever thought that they would see Chris Paul in a Maverick uniform. And I'm still not one that thinks that could be the likeliest of cases. But in some ways, it does make sense given where he's at in his career and what the Mavericks could be asking of him until Kyrie Irving comes back.
Yeah, and I actually like the fit a lot better than I think the chances are high or probable or likely. I think the fit makes a lot of sense. And he's not a two-way, he's not a two-way player. He's 40, he's old. But if you were willing to come for the minimum, absolutely 100%. Last season he made, the San Antonio offense with him on the court averaged about 114 points per 100 possessions, Without him, they average less than 109 points per 100 possessions. That was the worst mark on the team. So when Chris Paul was off the court, that's when the San Antonio offense struggled the most. He started and played. I think there's a lot of overlap he had with Wemby. Chris Paul at this point of his career is not an entire team, anchor a second unit, but he is very good at running an offense and making sure it gets to the star players in the places where they are best equipped to score, best equipped to use their skill set and succeed. And I'm hesitant to think that for sure Chris Paul is even an option.
Sure.
I guess is kind of where I'm at with it. I do think he'd help. I do think he's awesome. I think he's been an awesome player. And yeah, it'd be kind of crazy to have an entire team of future All-Stars or future Hall of Famers.
I mean, you're going full AARP at that point when it comes to adding Chris Paul at that point at 40 years old. So that means you better win a title. You better win a title.
But yeah, if you're signing for a minimum, it doesn't matter his age. It matters that he fills in. It matters that for the 50, 60 games that Kyrie is going to miss, that you have somebody that you trust in his place. Is Chris Paul going to be quite as effective? There's always the age-related declines, and certainly this is somebody who can play. You're probably thinking he plays like 24 minutes a night, so it's not quite. You probably still need another guard in there.
Sure.
I don't think getting Chris Paul eliminates the need for this roster to have another creator. Whereas there's a few names you could toss out there where you feel more comfortable saying 48 minutes of X player and Brandon Williams, an X player, Brandon Williams, and maybe like one more guy who's a more distant third string point guard, just an option.
So let me ask you this then: what's more likely, Chris Paul being a Dallas Maverick, or the Mavericks running it back with Spencer Dinwiddie and finding a way to get it done with him coming back to this team? Because in terms of trust, the Mavericks would trust a guy in Spencer Dinwiddie who last year on a minimum led the team in assists, led the team in minutes, and obviously played well above the money that he was making. Do you think that would be a situation where they could find themselves running it back with a guy in Spencer Dinwiddie if it came down to it?
Spencer Dinwiddie got benched last game of the season.
He did.
Games of the season.
He did.
You think that might stick with him a little bit?
It might.
You think that might indicate, like, if you choose to bench a guy for the last 2 games of the season, the play-in tournament, is that not a little bit of an indication of how you're thinking the rest of the way?
It's tough because he did play a lot. But you're right. And when it counted most, he wasn't necessarily to be found when it came for the Mavericks as part of their rotation.
But yeah, when it comes to elevating the offense, I like Chris Paul better than almost any other name. Like, sure. Dennis Schroeder's not going to be a minimum guy. I like Chris Paul better than Trey Jones. Then Micic, who almost certainly, I'm sure he's going back to Europe. Then, Trey Mann. Then, there's just, Russell Westbrook, Dennis Smith, Markelle Fultz,
Malcolm Brogdon.
Yeah. So
you want to talk about breaking the time-space continuum if Russell Westbrook found himself in a Mavericks uniform. I feel like at this point we're trying to find the oldest point guard available who is like one of the biggest names, and let's just stick him on the Mavericks and let's see what happens there. It feels like. But yeah, they've got it's a delicate situation that they've got to balance with trying to stem the tide until Kyrie Irving comes back, but also finding a player that can help them keep them afloat as they continue to navigate it with the kind of players that they have on the squad as it's currently constructed. But at the same time, that is what this front office is being tasked to do. And honestly, as we kind of think about just the injury situation as a whole, it feels like Kyrie Irving's injury, out of all the ones that the Mavericks suffered, is by far the most important one, given the importance that he has on this roster and what it does to the dynamics of what this team is trying to do, both mostly offensively, but on both sides of the ball. Kyrie Irving's injury clearly is having a much bigger impact than I think we even anticipated, given the situation where the roster is right now.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's going to be raining to see what the Mavericks do this offseason, given what they've got to do to be able to put this roster together. Otherwise, they've got some work to do to figure out their point guard situation coming up. Coming up here on the DLLS Mavs podcast, which Mavericks could be award winners this upcoming NBA season. We'll dive into who's on the roster and who could find themselves taking home some hardware next year. All that and more coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
There's excitement in Dallas again. Everybody's hyped. Cooper Flagg soon to be a Maverick. The schedule's not out yet, though, of course. But, even as the excitement builds for next season, there's always new tickets to get. There's always new schedules coming out. The NFL schedule just released. Games are coming out. And the best place to get tickets. The absolute best place is Game Time. If you are looking for maybe catching a Cowboys game, maybe catching a NFL game in whatever city you live in, Game Time makes scoring NFL tickets faster and easier. They have exclusive discounts, and you're going to find great seats for as low as $100. Game Time guarantee means that you can trust that you'll always get 100% authentic NFL tickets on time and at the best price, plus fees are always included. So what you see is what you get. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game time? Let me tell you something. You stink. Guys, you all stink. We all stink. But I got the products for you to help you smell and feel much better. And of course, it's Mando. Of course, with Mando, men's deodorant and brand that helps hyper-focus in keeping every aspect of a man clean when it comes to their body. We all know what stinks when it comes to your butt cracks, balls, everything else. It stinks. But at the same time, Mando can take care of you. It's clinically proven to be able to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Solid deodorant stick as well, formulated and powered by mandelic acid to odor block as well. Osprey deodorant as well. They've got all kinds of products, baking soda free, paraben free as well. If you want to smell your best, you've got to be able to do it with Mando. You can use code DLLS to be able to get your Mando products. The Mando Starter Pack is perfect for new customers as well. It comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube as well. You get deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping along with it. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get a $5 off their starter pack with our exclusive code that equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code DLLS to shop at mando.com. That's SHOPMANDO.com. Today, please support our show and tell them where we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando. Which Mavericks could be award winners this upcoming season? Let's dive into that as we get ready to welcome in Bobby Marks coming up at 12:30 right here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. And a little bit later on, we'll be dialing up the Stein Line with our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. We have seen the awards start to be handed out. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander winning his first ever NBA MVP. The Oklahoma City Thunder dominating Game 2 last night over the Minnesota Timberwolves to take a 2-0 series lead in their best-of-7 series. Game 2 between the Pacers and the Knicks tonight in Madison Square Garden as the Knicks look to even up their series with the Indiana Pacers. The all-defensive teams were announced as well when you came to the first team and second team all-defensive award team winners, highlighted by, of course, Evan Mobley, who was the Defensive Player of the Year. He makes the All-NBA Defensive First Team. Jalen Williams, J-Dub of the Oklahoma City Thunder along that team as well. So let's look at it. Who could the Mavericks find themselves being award winners next year? Presumably, the Mavericks are going to have the heavy favorite, Tim Cato, to win the NBA's Rookie of the Year because Cooper Flagg is going to be the number 1 overall pick for the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, that's the obvious one. And if Cooper, as long as Cooper plays a reasonable number of games, and Rookie of the Year is not dictated by the games played by the 75-game mark, but if Cooper is playing games, then I am almost certain he will win it. The one scenario I could see is Dylan Harper. I think he's the only other player who's going to put up numbers like that. I think Con Knippel is going to have a pretty good rookie year. He's kind of a plug-and-play ready now guy, but I don't think he's going to, like, impact-wise, he's not gonna touch those guys. Ace Bailey, no. VJ Edgecombe, no. I'm just trying to think, and I think it's really only Dylan Harper that even poses a challenge, and I think that's only the case if San Antonio were to move on from Steph Castle, and all of a sudden it's Dylan Harper playing a larger role than what he would be with 2 guards kind of already locked into that San Antonio roster. So Cooper Flagg, heavy favorite. Mm-hmm. I think what gets interesting is talking about everybody else.
Yes.
Anthony Davis certainly always has a chance for all NBA and all defense. Once again, last year he didn't meet the 65-game rule, the minimum. He was not meeting game requirements. But he's got a chance for that. Derek Lively has a chance for all defense as well. I kind of think the combo of them is going to be tough to see either of them actually awarded with it. But if Dallas's defense is as good as they think, as everybody thinks, absolutely one of those two, I think, and Anthony Davis, just by sheer minutes, if he plays enough, is probably going to be the guy who ends up with with those honors. Beyond that, the question is, just go up and down the roster. Is there a most improved player on this team? Naji, rightly so, got a little bit of buzz, a little bit too late for most improved player. I thought he absolutely deserved to at least be discussed in that award. But because he was discussed last year, and because I don't know if there's a bunch more improvement for him to do, I don't see that being super likely. Do you just looking up and down the roster? What ceilings do you see for these players? For example, I'm not sure. I think Cooper Flagg has all defense first team potential, maybe even all NBA first team potential. Not sure. I mean, we don't know. Not sure he's a future MVP favorite. But again, we're so far off from that. But he certainly is Rookie of the Year leading favorite, and just very hard to see anybody else, especially given Cooper's fit, his role, what's going to be asked of him. Really hard to see anybody else being in serious competition for that award.
Yeah, for me, Cooper Flagg, obvious Rookie of the Year.
Welcome,
as
Bobby.
We're joined by our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Corella, here on set on the DLLS Mavs podcast. That's right. He's not the only Bobby that's going to be joining us here on the show today, of course. Oh, that's sweet, Bobby. But Cooper Flagg, overwhelming Rookie of the Year. Naji Marshall, shout out to Mr. Crazy. I think Naji Marshall has a chance to be most improved player as well. We saw the leaps that he took in his game this past season. Obviously, we love his floater game and what he's continued to do in his first season with the Dallas Mavericks. Obviously, became a fan favorite here. I think he has a chance to be most improved player. Anthony Davis, the key, obviously, for him throughout the 13 years of his career has been health. If he is healthy, we know what he is. He's an all-defensive NBA type of player and can be so once again. The question will be, will his health and his body allow him to do that? And if it does, he is going to be firmly in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year and first-team All-NBA defensive when it comes to the NBA, which is hard to imagine that throughout Anthony Davis's illustrious career, he has never won Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA. Of course, an NBA champion, multi-time All-Star, but has never won Defensive Player of the Year in league. So I'm sure that is something that he wants to check off his list before his career is over with. And maybe we'll see. But to me, All-NBA defensive for Anthony Davis, most improved for Naji Marshall, Cooper Flagg. Those would be the three immediately that come to mind that could be potential award winners for the Dallas Mavericks next season. How about you, Bobby? Who you got? We're discussing who. Okay, it went okay. It went okay. I don't stink. No, it did not. It did not.
Get it.
Because I had Mando. That's why I didn't stink.
Was that a joke?
Yes.
We are.
So, all right. So, peel the curtain back. I was in a meeting. I have no idea what's going on. I'm assuming you talked about Cooper Flagg winning Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
Anthony Davis, potential Defensive Player of the Year. And Naji Marshall, potential
Sixth man of the year.
Oh,
Man. I like 6
I used most improved player.
Oh,
but
most
yeah.
improved?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No. I think he's got the juice to be sixth man of the year.
Okay.
I think 6 man makes a little bit more sense than most improved. Most improved isn't usually the award where you get it the year after you should get it. And I'm not saying that Naji deserved it last season, but Naji did a lot of improvement last year. And so there's only so much more improvement that's available to him next season. I like 6 man as a more realistic shout.
Yeah. I think sixth man is definitely something that, it's one of those awards that you don't necessarily have to be on a really good team in order to win. Whereas, MVP and a lot of these other ones, if you're on a garbage team or if you're on even a team that's like 42-40, you have no chance. But sixth man is not really one of those awards. And so I think even if the Mavs don't win 50 games or 55 games or whatever, I think that he has a decent chance if he averages 12, 15 points a game and comes in and gives you 4 or 5 assists, 4 or 5 rebounds. I think that's sixth man of the year kind of numbers.
Yeah.
14, 5, and 4 or something. I mean, that's pretty ambitious, but I think he can do it.
And if he's going to be relied upon as much as he was this past year, he's going to have the opportunities to be able to do it. I do want to go back and correct myself real quick.
Oh, no. Was my mic off the whole time? We're
Yeah,
good?
we're good. Yeah.
They're trying to silence me.
No,
I will not be silenced.
No, not at all.
I'll speak into your mic, Tim. I'll come over there and spit hot fire. I don't care.
Why are you spitting?
What?
I'm
Why are you
spitting unbranded sparkling water.
That's right.
Nothing.
The NBA All Defensive First Team was Dyson Daniels, Lou Dort, Draymond Green, Evan Mobley, and Amin Thompson. NBA All Defensive Second Team, Tumani Kamara from the Portland Trailblazers, Rudy Gobert, Jaren Jackson Jr., J-Dub, Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Ivica Zubac made All Defensive Second Team this year.
Good player.
Yeah, speaking of most improved player, I mean, Ivica Zubac was fantastic for the Los Angeles Clippers.
So on the Luka versions, before the Luka trade, one thing that I would talk about a lot is that Dallas didn't really have any perimeter-based candidates for all defense, or even Derek Jones was the closest. Like, he was on all defense short list as a perimeter player. That's the first time Dallas has had a perimeter player of that quality in quite some time. And that was, I thought, an issue with the team before the trade. It was something that, I thought was going to potentially come back and bite them. I still think it's something Dallas is missing. Cooper obviously has an enormous ceiling and is somebody who, certainly has more perimeter, point of attack, defensive ability, defensive potential than anybody else on the Mavs roster. I still don't think Dallas has, anybody who's close to that elite level. For example, Oklahoma City went and traded Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso. Josh Giddey is a player who puts up a lot more stats than Alex Caruso. Josh Giddey, though, plays in a role that is just basically worse Shea. And so it turns out for Oklahoma City, it's way better to have just Shea taking on those minutes and, J-Dub taking all those responsibilities. However, Alex Caruso does something at a top 2 level in the NBA. And if you are a contender, what you are trying to get, because you can only put 5 players on the court. You can only put 5 skill sets of players on the court is the, what happens. And so you are trying to get players who are at the very peak, who are at the very, most elite level of their skill set. That's how you win advantages at the very highest level. I still don't think Dallas has, that point of attack number 1 stopper. We've talked a lot about this. I do think that it's less of an issue than it was when you were running 2 defense deficient guards. If you can just put more all defense level players on the court at the same time.
Let's take our next break here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. When we come back, we'll be welcoming in ESPN front office insider Bobby Marks to talk all things trade, salary, cap, tax apron. Bobby, we'll do all that.
How panicked should we be?
We'll do all that next here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions. Whether you're on land or water, Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. One of the most unique features of Rugged Road coolers is their ability to always float upright. You're never going to lose a drink. Unlike other heavy-duty coolers, Rugged Road coolers are incredibly light, making them easy to transport on any trip without compromising on performance. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last, ensuring you can keep up with any adventure. The coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool for up to 7 days. Not that you're going to need to keep them cool for up to 7 days, but good to know, just in case. So gear up for your next adventure with Rugged Road coolers. Reliable, durable, built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Use code DLLS for 10% off.
If you've got a floor, if you've got a home, if you've got a business, if you've got a big, beautiful studio right in the heart of the city, you need a floor. You need a floor beneath your feet, and there is no better place to go for your next upgraded, beautiful floor than from our friends at Empire Today. They live, eat, sleep, and breathe flooring. They're not going to grift you. You don't got to go into a store and get ripped off by someone that was doing roofing yesterday that's going to be doing plumbing tomorrow. No, flooring is all Empire Today does. And they come to you. They bring the showroom to your home. You don't have to imagine what the stuff is going to look like in your kitchen because you can see it, boom, right there with your decor, with your lighting, and so on. With Empire Today, you get clear upfront and all-inclusive pricing. Plus, you can schedule installation as soon as the next day. Nobody likes to wait. If you've got damage or if you're just fed up with the tile beneath your feet, you need that stuff changed right now, and Empire Today can help you do that. Schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. DLLS listeners can receive a $350 discount using promo code DLLS, a $350 buckaroo discount with code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Visit empiretoday.com/DLLS for full details.
Appreciate all of you joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. The quickest way you can support us here is to like, comment, and subscribe to DLLS Sports. And you can also download and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts for free. Just search DLLS Mavs, get it a 5-star rating, and write a review for it while you're there. We are ready to welcome in ESPN front office insider, over 20 years of front office experience in the NBA, 9 years with the worldwide leader in ESPN. He is Bobby Marks, joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Bobby, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, guys. How we doing?
Doing well, doing well. I want to start off with this one because about a month ago, you were sitting outside doing a beautiful video discussing the Mavericks offseason, and it made me a little hungry because you were talking about restaurants. You said if the Mavericks were a restaurant, they would be under construction. Now let's fast forward a month. They've won the NBA draft lottery. What is the restaurant review now for the Dallas Mavericks looking forward here?
Probably opening soon, right? I wouldn't say it's probably that construction that certainly started, I guess, post Luka has certainly been, I would say, accelerated to a T. So yeah, I would say, listen, anytime you get the number one pick in the draft like Dallas now has, and there's a generational player in Cooper Flagg to add to a roster that returns basically most of this group. I think it's good. Yeah, certainly good fortunes compared to where you were prior to the lottery compared to where you are right now.
It's a restaurant updated with a fresh new cuisine, a much more exciting one. That's for sure.
That's it. We went from like fast food to like, we've upgraded the menu.
Yeah, maybe not Michelin starred, but definitely on the recommendation list. We're getting there. We're getting there. How would you lay out the just the overall view of what Dallas looks like right now? With certainly they will accept this. They now have a much bigger cap hit expected from Cooper Flagg, and they have a lot of overlap. They have a lot of players in the front court, and quite possibly the need to move on from somebody in that group.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's certainly the ability to have the number one pick in the draft, and I don't think anybody in that Mavericks front office would turn that down, even with it taking on an additional $9 to $10 million cap hit with that. I think the big thing is I think Kyrie plays into this, certainly, as far as what his salary is going to look like, because as you are right now, let's just say, Kyrie opts in, and there really are no changes. You're a second apron team. I mean, that's the reality of the situation here as far as where you are. I think there's a difference between being a second apron team and being like buried in the second apron like Phoenix was this past year, and probably what Boston will be if they don't make any changes. The second apron really impacts you based on your post-transactional salary. That's the biggest thing. Like Milwaukee kind of showed you can get out of it and make trades and be functionable. And where Dallas is, they're like $1 million over right now, and maybe 2 to 3 if you filled out your roster. So I think what happens with Kyrie at his number, and we'll know. His opt-in date is June 24th. So right before the draft, kind of what direction that's going to be, if that's going to be at a lower number, if it's going to be at the same number. But you're right. You do have a lot of players that maybe kind of duplicate each other a little bit here. When you look at, certainly where your centers are, with Gafford and Lively and AD, you add Cooper into that mix is certainly a big wing, I guess, big front court player. And then you still have PJ Washington, who is extension eligible. You thought that prior to this, it's like a guarantee that PJ extension eligible at the end of August. I think it's the 29th for 89. Like that would make sense. And maybe it still does, but you do have a lot of these other positional needs, and you have a little bit of an overlap here. So I think the priority for you is to go find a point guard somewhere, because I don't know when Kyrie's going to be back. and you are thin at the guard spot, certainly, I would say. So how do you go out and do that as far as free agency? Very lukewarm. There's some decent names out there, but how do you kind of go out and get a kind of a stopgap, of maybe a backup that could start for you in the absence of Kyrie?
Yeah, and since you brought up Kyrie and his potential, whatever his salary is going to be next season, obviously none of us know exactly what it is. So slightly different framing question for you. Last season, Dallas had a very specific slot that they wanted to sign Derek Jones and then Naji Marshall into, because that was specifically what facilitated the Klay Thompson trade. There's a specific amount of money that they gave Klay Thompson was based off all these other moves. I believe 2 years ago, it was something very similar with Kyrie, where he was kind of slotted in. They had an idea of what moves were going to happen or what moves they wanted to happen, and then they slotted Kyrie's salary into that. Obviously, we don't know what Dallas's plans are, and we'll see how everything plays out. Are you seeing it, an increase in situations like that where big not max contracts, but big contracts basically get signed to the max that they can be in and around all the other moves that happen in the NBA? Is that something that a lot of teams, a lot of front offices are increasingly using as a kind of plan?
Yeah, they are. I mean, I think the day and age where you basically are kind of writing a blank check for maybe your second or third best player are basically over. Like Indiana is a good example where you have the two players with Siakam and Halbert, and then you have everyone else making less than 20 million. That might change a little bit with Miles Turner this offseason, but you are starting to see like kind of a tiered system as far as how teams construct their roster. It's challenging when you have like four players making 30 million or more. Like that presents a huge challenge. And I think in the case with Kyrie, even if he hadn't gotten hurt, like are you willing to spend 50 million plus on him? And I know he would have a lot of leverage and certainly, but I do think you have to kind of look at what the market is also, where what else is out there. It's similar to what probably the Clippers will go through with James Harden to an extent. I think you want to reward the player, but also put yourself in a position where you still have some flexibility to kind of add outside of him and Anthony and Cooper, and certainly, and you do have that there, but it's kind of like, okay, what else can we add if we're moving other parts of the roster? So I do think that's the new wave of how rosters are constructed. There are certainly teams like Boston who is a little bit different, but as you see right now, Boston is going to have to make some really difficult decisions as far as where they are. $500 million is not sustainable in this day and age of NBA worlds. I think everybody's chomping at the bit. I kind of have teased people a little bit on OKC. And I teased it because I already wrote their offseason article because I had to, based on facing elimination in Denver. And I think the big thing is, like, with them, can they keep Shea and Jalen and Chet? And the reality is you can, because they have so many damn draft picks, right? Like when Case and Wallace will eventually probably replace Lou Dort. And the pick 15 will probably replace Isaiah Hartenstein in 2 years, right? You just kind of like start like replenishing that. And that's a different way of roster building here. But going back to your point, yeah, I agree. Like every player is kind of pegged as far as a certain salary slot.
Yeah, and as I give the floor to these guys ask questions, but it's almost like, hey, we want to do all this stuff. It's almost a selling point to the player. It's like, we want to do this stuff, and then we'll pay you the max of what we can based off all these other moves.
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, like, everybody kind of gets caught up in the luxury tax. The new luxury tax is the second apron. Like, that's the reality of it. Like, the second apron is a quasi hard cap. I mean, you can still exceed it under certain rules, but paying into the luxury tax is not as, taboo as it once was.
From one Bobby to another, first off, great name. So we got to stick together. You're laying out the OKC scenario, how they can just keep retooling, and I'm getting very jealous. I'm getting very depressed and very bummed out, but I'm trying to spin this in some level of positive way. The Mavs do have some ammo to go make trades, but there are a lot of fans in our chat every day that are saying, well, look at free agency to replace Kyrie. You can go get Chris Paul for the minimum or
Yeah.
even Dennis Schroeder. And I'm like, well, there's no shot that Dennis will sign for the minimum anywhere. He just had way too good of a season. And I don't even know that Chris Paul would. So
Yeah.
do the Mavs, in your opinion, do they have good options at the minimum to replace Kyrie, or do they need to shed salary to try and open up some mid-level exceptions, even if it's a taxpayer, to try and sign a guy like Chris Paul or maybe even Schroeder? Or are they better served pursuing a trade with the team that has maybe a veteran guard that is looking for a new situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think the shedding of the salary to open up your non-tax mid-level, which is at 14.1, I think that's the number, is a challenge. Just based on like you basically would have to get like $20 million in salary off your books, which is really like it's doable, but is it worth going out and getting Ty Jerome for $10 million a year? Right? Like that's kind of like the thinking there. Like would Schroeder or Chris Paul come for them? Well, listen, if they came for the minimum, that's great. Like that's a home run. Like if you can do that, I do think roster building nowadays, free agency is third behind everything else. I mean, and it's a distant third behind trades and the draft. That's kind of the primarily way as far as roster construction here. So I do think going out and getting one of those two guys presents a challenge if you want to go out and shed money. I wouldn't recommend doing that. I would recommend trying to use one of those players to get something back, whether it be in a trade there.
Go ahead, Robert. Do you have another one?
No, that was it.
So thinking about this roster going forward here, Anthony Davis is a $375 million extension that kicks in. We talked about Kyrie Irving, his potential salary going into this upcoming year. How much more challenging is it going to be for this roster, given not only the guys that are extension eligible, but Anthony Davis's extension kicking in, and what that means for this team to try to improve their roster going forward here?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I think the beauty of it is you'll get Cooper Flagg on a 4-year rookie contract that is at basically the non-tax mid-level. I mean, like that is the beauty of something like that. And I think he is going to be. I had the opportunity real quick to sit down with him and help him this before the combine with his draft prep, just kind of when he starts meeting with teams. And I do this with a lot of players, and not just because his name is the same as my 16-year-old, but I had a terrific sit down with him, and I think he's going to be awesome on and off the court in Dallas here. But I think that Cooper's number helps. I think it's a matter of like what else, like if you extended PJ for say $20 million per year, like stuff starts to add up as far as where your salaries are going to be. Like the one thing you don't want to be is be in a position where you don't have options anymore. That's the worst place in the world to be. And you do. I mean, whether it be this year's draft and the draft picks, certainly the Laker picks and some of your own in future years, and some of these contracts, these sweet spot contracts, as I say, like those $2 to $20 million players that you can put in trades, that gives them optionality here. But the cap's going to rise 10% this summer. I think there's a notion out there that from a lot of people, like just because this TV money's coming in, that we're going to see an infusion every year at 10%. I would probably temper that a little bit, because I think that the issues with regional sports networks are going to probably not flatten it, but not see that 10% number every year. So I think you have to be careful as far as when you start planning there. But I do think like you have to, what the CBA does, it puts two buckets, your priorities and your luxuries. Okay. And you have to figure out as far as, is PJ a priority? Is he a luxury? Is Klay Thompson a priority or a luxury? And kind of work around the margins from there.
So if you are sitting down with this front office, the Mavericks front office this summer, and you're laying out the plan of how to make this team as financially flexible as it can be to improve as much as it can, what are you laying out as a potential roadmap for this team to be able to go down that path?
Well, I think the first thing, I would be interested in extending Daniel Gafford, but at a number that makes sense where he's still trade eligible now and not 6 months from now. So what that means is, he's going into an expiring contract. If I can add another 2 years at like 24 million, like just hypothetical, 24 million, because that gives you, instead of an expiring contract, a player that's got 3 years. And if that's going to be maybe your trade asset or one of your other ones, I think that's kind of like where things start here. I do think, as I said, like you look at your roster and everything, and I'm just kind of pulling it up here. It's like, you've got, whether it be Max, and I know Max had some good games for you when you got him in trade. Max, Caleb, Naji, like those are three guys making 27 million, right? Like, where can you replace one of those with more of a positional priority, whether it be more shooting off the bench, whether it be like kind of a stopgap at point guard until Kyrie gets back and everything. Like Brandon Williams was terrific, right? Like Brandon, when you signed him, and he's got a terrific contract, like he's making $2.3 million on a non-guaranteed deal, and that's a good number and stuff. So like, I do think you have to look at it. I know Nico said like the window where you basically have a 3-year window with this group, and it's basically the length of 80's extension, like 80's extension, which is, is kicking in now, and it's for 3 years, and there's a player like that's your kind of your condensed window. And then 3 years from now, there'll be another iteration of this team, and it will be more around Cooper. So I think you got to have to kind of balance like kind of both things there.
Bobby, this was tremendous stuff. We appreciate your time and obviously the infinite resources that you have to be able to provide some of the commentary for this team here.
I'm disappointed Mark Stein was not on today. I was looking forward to seeing, Mark and I never crossed paths at ESPN, but I will say this, and if he's watching this, Mark Stein is a big reason why I am in sports media today. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
Probably one of the biggest reasons, because he gave me an opportunity to drive my car up to Bristol, Connecticut in 10 years ago, May of 2015, when I was unemployed, and to go up to ESPN and get me on SportsCenter on a Saturday when I had never done live TV, and that kind of got my foot in the door.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, we will pass that message along to Mark Stein when we talk to him in our next segment. Again, thank you so much for your time. This was tremendous stuff, and we look forward to our next conversation with you, Bobby. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Bobby.
That is ESPN front office insider Bobby Marks going to join us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast.
I'm like I feel a little better.
You feel a little better?
Only a little, but I do feel a little better.
Okay. All right. Well, hope you feel a little bit better too after listening to that with Bobby Marks there. Coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs podcast, we welcome in our national NBA insider Mark Stein, talking all things Mavericks offseason and NBA playoffs. Coming up next year on the show.
But first, were you doing it?
You got it.
I'll do it.
You got it.
I'll do the Die Hard read. I don't care. I'll do the Die Hard read.
Y'all traded Die Hard for Mando.
Oh, we did. We did. That's a big trade. Big trade. The biggest trade.
We should have got Bobby's thoughts on it.
We should have. Bobby Marks, what are your thoughts on Mando? Respond. We just crossed 25,000 subs on YouTube earlier this week. Shout out to each and every one of you for liking any single video, commenting on any single video, hanging out in the chat, subbing to the channel, tuning into what we got going on here at DLLS Sports. And yesterday we just launched the DLS Wings podcast. Had our first ever episode. KG and I were on there. Mark Stein was on there. The great Dorothy J. Gentry was on there. Erica Day joined us. She's going to be on every episode with us. That is going to be a once-a-week show for now, and hopefully it'll be more frequent than that very soon. But in the meantime, very exciting to roll out another program here at DLLS Sports. And if you want to support what we're doing, scan the QR code beneath me, click the link in the description below, or go to alldlls.com/diehard, where currently for $4 a month you can become a diehard. What you get when you sign up: a free shirt of your choice. We got more than 40 of them to choose from, including some Otter ones, some Finnish Mafia ones. We got some Finisher. We got a Moose. We got all sorts of... If you love Finland, all right, or wildlife, you want one of these shirts. Okay, you get one of them for free when you sign up. You also get a discount on any other gear you could want. You get to join the DLS Diehard Discord Lounge, a great place to hang out, especially during games from your favorite teams. Hang out with fellow diehards on there. You get to read the website, all that written stuff from Tim on the Mavs beat and others on alldlls.com. And you get your physical Die Hard card.
That's right.
There you go. Made of pure titanium alloy mixed with
vibranium.
Yep. What is that?
You haven't seen Black Panther 1 or 2? You don't know?
That's the stuff.
That's,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the good stuff. Yep.
Come on,
that's
man.
in the card too.
Come on, man. Get with it.
That card has saved my life on numerous occasions. So yeah, thank you for supporting what we're doing here.
Let's welcome in our national NBA insider, Mark Stein. You can always dial up the Stein Line at the Stein Line. And we are literally dialing up the Stein Line here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Mark, you got us loud and clear? Okay. We'll get him on here in just a second. Until we do so, any quick reaction to what Bobby Marks had to say in our last segment in terms of the roadmap or anything that the Mavericks could potentially lay out here?
I thought it was interesting that as much as we talk about PJ and Daniel Gafford as one or the other potentially being the trade piece, and certainly he talked about that with Gafford, but he also highlighted Caleb Martin, Naji Marshall, and Max Christie. And I think out of those three players, Naji is someone that everybody wants to keep around. Max Christie is also somebody that everybody wants to keep around, but Max Christie is somebody who might have a little bit of trade value still. And I just think that's notable, especially as like yesterday we went through the roster, we went through the rotation, and just the likelihood that there was even room for in a fully healthy team, even prior to Kyrie's return, that is he directly fitting into that rotation. Certainly, it's not a situation where Dallas is looking or hoping or wanting to trade him. But if we're going into a summer where we expect Dallas is probably going to make a trade, I think it's at least worth noting that is a possibility. That like Max Christie is a if that's what it takes, if that's what it takes to go get a guard who is not a 3-and-D wing style of guard, which is much more with what Max Christie is. If you can go get someone who is more of a creator, is somebody who can help in this first 50, 60 games of the season, I think that's, you can't rule that out.
Mark Stein, we got you loud and clear.
Oh no!
Oh no, he's in the void.
Oh my gosh,
man!
I thought he was in a different country, but it turns out he's in a different dimension.
Yeah, somewhere.
Mark, you might be muted.
Well,
Mark, what was the event horizon like?
Not the event horizon.
Oh my God!
We'll work to get Mark Stein on here in just a moment. Before we do, let's get to our super chats that we got here before we
He
get.
says he's here and hears us. But
okay. Well, we'll get him on here in just a second. Let's get to the super chats real quick. Sheldon Fennell with the $9.99 super chat. Did the Mavs say they want a veteran point guard to play with Kyrie? Could they address their point guard needs in the draft or a cheap young free agent? Dennis Smith Jr. reunion. Don't want Mavs to give up their future picks for marginal gains.
You try again, Elijah.
It's just that they don't have another draft pick, and someone like Dorian Finney-Smith, Dennis Smith Jr. just isn't the type of creator that's going to whatsoever replace a guy like Kyrie Irving.
Sheldon Fennell with the other super chat coming back in with $4.99. Appreciate you. Any chance we could send Anthony Davis to Brooklyn for just picks, then use the cap space to extend PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, and sign a free agent?
You're not signing. I mean, first off, what free agents are on the market this summer that makes that appealing? Anthony Davis still is an amazing player, and there is a level of star power that that you are trying to replace if you do something like that. And even then, even trading Anthony Davis, it doesn't get you to like a max slot. Gets you under the cap, I believe. Under the salary cap, but not nearly enough to go like sign another $60 million player. Just the dynamics of how that works. So no, I do not think I do not think that is the scenario that's gonna play out. It's worth asking, but no, not too likely.
Ready to give it a go? All right. In just a moment, we'll have Mark Stein joining us here on the show. In the meantime, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals is tonight between the Indiana Pacers and the New York Knicks. Pacers looking to take a commanding 2-0 lead on the road over New York after their incredible comeback in the fourth quarter, where they were able to use a 20-6 run to send it into overtime. Tyrese Halliburton's incredible buzzer beater, sending it into overtime. They go on to win it in OT in New York. Jalen Brunson and company looking to even up the series tonight before that series moves back to Indianapolis. Mark Stein, can you hear us? Okay. Well, we will, don't even worry about it. We will make sure that he enjoys the rest of his Memorial Day weekend when it comes to his travels, and we'll make sure we talk to him.
I think we should make Bobby pretend to be Mark Stein, and
I don't think you want that, because I don't know what Mark was going to talk. I don't know anything. I've literally been in meetings the last 36 hours of my life. I cannot tell you enough how much I do not know what I'm talking about these days.
That's okay. We've had a lot to be excited about. Bobby mentioned a little bit earlier, our DLLS Wings podcast jumped off. And, of course, we're heading into the Memorial Day weekend. Any big plans for Memorial Day weekend for either of you?
Not maybe working on it.
Working on it?
In progress.
Okay, in progress. Yeah, I'm going to be chilling out this weekend. I'm going to take in some WNBA action, some NBA playoff action. Like I said, daughter's out of school, so we may do some bowling. Apparently, she's going to go see Minecraft later on today, so shout out to her.
That's still in movies, in theaters?
Apparently it is, because, yeah.
That's still in movies? Still in theaters. It's been in theaters for like 2 months.
I personally, myself, probably going to see Mission Impossible this weekend. The final Mission Impossible ever. By the way, Tom Cruise.
Okay, they clearly weren't impossible.
Okay, Tim. Wow.
You're going to have, what, 9 of them?
This is the final installment of Mission Impossible. Apparently, Tom Cruise showed up unannounced at AMC North Park last night.
Well, it was announced.
It was announced?
I heard it, yes.
I didn't hear that. Okay.
I definitely had heard that was happening.
Oh, okay. Had no idea. I just saw it pop up on social
But
media.
yes, he was in Dallas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, shout out to Tom Cruise for hanging out with the patrons there.
Yeah, he actually swung through. We got drinks after.
Oh, you was hanging out with Tom Cruise like that?
Yeah, he's
That's why you got the fresh haircut. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. Well, Tom gave it to me.
Of course he did. Of course
he's got an upcoming movie, a biopic as a barber, so he needed some practice.
Well, you did a good job on your haircut.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Is he trying one more time? All right. Mark? Nope. All right.
The void's got him.
The void has got him. He is trapped in the
Consumed
void.
by the void.
He's
Uh-oh.
Oh my God.
Hello.
Oh!
What are
Look
we
at this.
looking at?
We're staring at a beautiful blue sky and what looks like a cathedral
Hey,
of
you
some
got
sort.
the first thing is Tanner gave you guys something to replace the camera.
There it is.
There we go.
And it's replaced. We got it. All
Can
right.
you hear me?
Yes.
You can.
You guys can hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. This is amazing.
Because I've been hearing you guys and all the I've been hearing you guys and all the insults.
Insults.
Wow, no. We love you, Mark. We love you. Bobby Marks, by the way, passed on a beautiful message he thanks you for helping him get into the sports industry in terms of the television side of things. So you can go back and watch that a little bit later on, but he wanted us to pass on that message to you because he was excited to try to cross paths with you on the show.
That is very nice. I need to miss that segment. Can you guys give me the 30-second synopsis?
He said thank you for getting him into sports television.
Yeah, he said that without you, he wouldn't be in media.
That's right.
No, I know.
He said Dallas is exploring trades involving Mark Stein.
All right, we got a few minutes left on the show before we get out of here. Let's start here. Sean Sweeney, the Mavericks assistant coach, interviewing for the Phoenix head coaching job. Where are we with him and his potential to land that job?
They are still in the middle of the second round, and they are talking to 8 or 9 coaches. But I do think Sweeney has a real chance. The rumbles about his prospects there are, that he is someone they are seriously looking at and considering. And, again, most of the candidates are current assistant coaches, but, he's been in head coaching searches before. He was a top contender for the Detroit job last summer that went to J.B. Bickerstaff. There are a lot of good candidates up for this job, but I do feel like he's got a shot. I'm not smart enough to handicap with a number, but I think he is definitely in the mix.
Okay, so if that is the case, the Mavericks could be looking to replace yet another assistant coach if that does go down. Of course, Alex Jensen taking over as the head coach at Utah, going back to the college ranks. So the Mavericks will have potentially 2 assistant coaching jobs that they will have to fill. We will continue here on the other side with our national NBA insider, Marcel. We want to thank our television audience for joining us here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Make sure you visit alldlls.com. to become a diehard member as well. We'll have tremendous content throughout the course of the Memorial Day weekend, so make sure you stay tuned for all of that. And of course, you can become a diehard member for just $4 a month. The conversation will continue coming up over on alldlls.com. As we continue with our national NBA insider, Mark Stein, here discussing, obviously, the Mavericks' potential losing of Sean Sweeney as he continues to interview for the Phoenix Suns coaching job. Sean Sweeney was also at the Clutch Pro Day, Mark Stein, with a lot of Mavericks, a serious contingent at the Clutch Pro Day in Los Angeles, looking at various prospects. What more can you tell us about the amount of Mavericks and what was taking place at the Clutch Pro Day in Los Angeles?
What I can tell you is that I wish I would have attended, because literally every power broker within the organization, pretty much apart from Patrick Dumont and Kyrie Irving, were there. I mean, it was everybody from the front office, Nico Harrison, Michael Finley, Matt Riccardi, Andrew Baker, from the coaching staff, Jason Kidd, Sean Sweeney, Jared Dudley. And let's just say that more than one team has reached out to me this week to note what a large contingent it was. And I haven't even mentioned, did I mention Anthony Davis yet? Anthony Davis,
the new haircut,
notable Clutch client, former Laker, in the Lakers practice facility with a Mavericks hat on, and I believe, if my memory is right, a Clutch hoodie. So, yes, it was quite a turnout from your Mavericks, which was certainly noticed because the Mavs only have one first-round pick. We know who they're taking, and he was not at the Clutch Pro Day. So for this to have kind of presence there certainly caught the eye.
Is that typical for that amount of contingent from one team to show up at such an event like this?
I mean, look, every team sends a varying number of personnel. Look, Jared, they are Clutch clients as well, like Anthony Davis, so maybe that is a factor as well. But look, it's also that pro is held in the Lakers facility, and so we have an Anthony Davis in the same business of the trade that we're still talking about. We're nearing 4-month anniversary, I believe, a week from Monday. It's 4 months since the trade. Don't even have to add on. Everybody knows what the trade is. So, like I said, my main takeaway is I wish I would have been there to see it, and buzz around the room and talk to the various luminaries to see what kind of commentary I could have elicited. Unfortunately, I was not there. Well, look, and I should say, it wasn't. Wait, so that was that Tuesday. So Monday, yeah, that was the day after Jason Kidd was in studio with us.
That's right. We'll see what kind of plans the Mavericks will have this upcoming offseason. But
you notice how he did not let it slip when he was in studio that was where he would be the next day.
No, because he was definitely on the first plane smoking out of here. If it seems like to Los Angeles, he's got a lot of business to attend to. Mark, we appreciate your efforts in coming on here on the show with us, as well as yesterday on the DLLS Wings podcast. We hope you enjoy the rest of your Memorial Day weekend, and safe travels overseas. Okay.
Oh,
there we go.
That'll do it for
super bye, Mark.
Right.
The most goodbye.
The most goodbye ever. He's like, I'm done. I gotta go.
The fairest of wells.
That's right. Appreciate Guy Prophet hanging out with us today here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. Thank you, sir. We are off on Monday. No show on Monday for the DLLS Mavs podcast, which means we will be back on Tuesday. Appreciate all of our guests who joined us this week. We had a tremendous week of guests from Mavericks head coach Jason Kidd, ESPN NBA analyst Tim Legler, ESPN college basketball analyst Seth Greenberg, and of course today ESPN front office insider Bobby Marks. So thank you to all of our guests who joined us this week. We had a fantastic week here on the DLLS Mavs podcast. That is our Mavericks analyst Bobby Carell. That is our Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato. I'm your host Kevin Gray. We are DLLS Mavs. We will talk to you on Tuesday, boys and girls, at 12 p.m. right here on DLLS Sports. Y'all have a good and safe Memorial Day weekend, and we'll talk to you next week. Y'all be good. Peace.
Y'all silly like the mayor.